All right, let's jump right in. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're digging into a really powerful framework for building mental resilience. In a world that honestly often feels deeply unfair, how do we actually shift from a mindset of frustration to one of unshakable agency? Let's find out. We usually hear this famous quote from Miguel de Cervantes, "A closed mouth catches no flies," and think, oh, it just means I should stay quiet. But if you look closer, it's actually a massive warning against our natural instinct to just complain into the void. Think about it. An open mouth that just expects the world to listen, to care, and to magically fix things, it's basically useless. The world rarely obliges. Instead, the flies just come right in anyway. Sure, venting into the void kind of feels good in the moment, right? But man, it totally saps your energy. The alternative, and this is something the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius urgently advised, is getting active in your own rescue. He argued that if you care for yourself at all, you have to do this, and you have to do it right now, while your hands still work. Getting active empowers you. It totally changes your direction.
So how exactly do we get active in our own rescue? Well, we're going to map this out across 4 core pillars today. First up, blow your own nose. Then, the miracle of presence. Number 3, your unbreakable character. 4, dropping the poison. And finally, we'll pull the whole shebang together into the power of deep flow.
All right, let's hit that first pillar. Part 1, blow your own nose. This is all about making that crucial shift from victimhood straight into agency.
Sometimes, life-changing wisdom is just completely blunt. Just look at this unapologetic advice from Epictetus. He essentially says, "Fool, don't you have hands? Or did God forget to give you a pair? Sit and pray your nose doesn't run, or rather just wipe your nose and stop seeking a scapegoat." It's a deliberately undignified image, right? But remember, Epictetus was a former slave. He knew real, horrific suffering. He had zero patience for self-pity. Because honestly, the victim narrative actively destroys the exact energy you need to address your problems. And we see modern thinkers backing this up all over the place. Ryan Holiday points out something super important. Yes, the world is rigged and unfair. But a sympathetic diagnosis, that doesn't pay the bills. Is the diagnosis accurate? Maybe. Is it useful? Not really. In the business world, folks like Peter Drucker and Jan Carlson found that when you give people real information, they literally can't help but take responsibility. Good systems actually enable agency. And then you have Jim Rohn's classic reminder, you might not be able to change your destination overnight, but you can absolutely change your direction overnight. Just a 1-degree shift completely alters where you eventually land. Okay, so we've nailed down why action is non-negotiable, but that pivots us to a pretty radical reality that makes those actions actually matter. So what exactly follows from the sheer, mind-blowing miracle of our existence? Which brings us right to our second pillar, Part 2, the miracle of presence, the gift you absolutely cannot take for granted. To really wrap our heads around this, we need to look at just how insanely improbable human life actually is. Look at this stark number, 30%. Back in ancient Rome, childhood mortality was sitting between 25 and 30%. The fact that Marcus Aurelius even survived childhood was a complete statistical anomaly. I mean, he could have been assassinated or, just died from a cut on his finger. His survival, and honestly, your survival, the fact that you were even born, is a literal miracle. When you realize how astronomically improbable it is that you're sitting here listening to this explainer right now, it completely shifts your mindset from fear to just this vibrant, immediate presence. We're not talking about comfort here. We're talking about a commission to live. Seneca, the ancient philosopher, absolutely hit the nail on the head with this. The whole future is uncertain, so live immediately. Don't sit around waiting for the perfect moment. And it's fascinating, the modern indie rock band Gang of Youths agrees completely. They have these incredibly raw lyrics urging us not to let our spirit wane or stay cold, but to act, because we're here by some random disclosure of grace. The theology is ancient, even if the phrasing is super modern. Basically, do not let your spirit wane. Show up, act, and love. Right here, right now. But of course, that leaves us with a pretty heavy question. How do we respond when we're trying to live immediately in a world that can be pretty dark? Ryan Holiday makes the sobering point that cheats, liars, and abuses of power are, well, they're practically the norm. So when we crash into that darkness, what's our defense? And that takes us to our third pillar, Part 3, your unbreakable character. No one can implicate me in ugliness. Marcus Aurelius had this brilliant realization. Outside forces have absolutely zero sway over your inner soul. They literally cannot make you be like them. We see this concept play out perfectly with Epictetus. So one night, a thief steals his iron lamp. His reaction? Tomorrow you will find an earthenware lamp, for a man can only lose what he has. He He doesn't flip out. The physical lamp is gone, sure, but his soul, completely intact. The theft just becomes a little reminder that possessions are temporary. It's actually a lot like that famous scene in Les Miserables, where the bishop forgives Jean Valjean for stealing his silver. He uses that injustice not for revenge, but to inspire the thief's total transformation. The bishop's character was just beyond contamination.
And we definitely see this kind of inner containment in modern history, too. The author Robert Greene profiles Franklin D. Roosevelt's 1932 election, and the context is wild. The country was in a massive crisis. Banks were failing left and right. But what does FDR do? He goes into a silent retreat. He literally refuses to take meetings with the outgoing president, Herbert Hoover. And it turns out this wasn't just some theatrical stunt for his famous 100 Days of Action. It was an absolute masterclass in deep inner containment. FDR was governing purely from his own center.
When you look at reacting to the outside chaos versus maintaining that inner containment, the difference is night and day. When you're contained, you don't just reflexively react. As Simon Sinek argues, this is exactly why we have to invest in people over ideas. Think about it. A genuinely good idea can get totally wrecked by bad people, but a strong character, that survives corrupt environments. Your unbroken character basically proves to everyone else that not everyone has gone to the dark side. It opens up a path for others to follow.
So the huge takeaway here is that character is the one thing others cannot touch. But that begs a pretty intense question. What is the weapon we use against ourselves? What's the internal poison that actually threatens this character we've worked so incredibly hard to build?
This brings us to our fourth pillar, part 4, dropping the poison, releasing a grudge as if it were a poison.
Listen, letting go of a grudge isn't just some sentimental feel-good advice. It is rigorous self-interest. Like Cervantes pointed out, hatred is a curse that doesn't really affect the person you hate. It mostly just injures the hater. You have to release a grudge as if it were a literal poison, because mentally it is. Martin Luther King Jr. summed this up perfectly. He said, "I have decided to stick with love because hate is too great a burden to bear." Whether you're talking about Marcus Aurelius forgiving a general who literally staged a rebellion against him, or MLK Jr. surviving decades of deep systematic injustice, the lesson is exactly the same. Releasing hate is a strategic, tactical decision. Hate just eats up the energy you desperately need to act. Dropping it, that allows you to conserve your energy and stay entirely free. All right, let's pull all of this together for our climax. Part 5, the power of deep flow, the grand synthesis. There's this amazing concept from chess prodigy and martial artist Josh Waitzkin. He says deep flow is the ultimate therapy. And when we stack our 4 movements together, you can see how they synergize straight into this flow state. First, agency. You act without waiting around for someone to rescue you. Second, presence. You are fully absorbed, completely alive to the moment. Third, character. You let all that external injustice just fall away like water off a duck's back. And fourth, release. That ruminating, hateful mind, it goes completely silent. Deep flow isn't about escaping reality, not at all. It's the examined life, fully and completely inhabited.
And the coolest part? This isn't just about you. Mastering these pillars connects you right back to the community. Ryan Holiday calls this the public service of being well, and I just love that phrasing. In a super busy, frightened world that's often filled with cheats and cowards, when someone actually sees you committed to justice, when they see you refusing to be dragged into the ugliness, it proves to them that not everyone is dark. Your private virtue essentially becomes this profound public service. It gives people a living example. It gives them real hope.
So I want to leave you with this final thought to ponder. A closed mouth catches no flies because it refuses to let the poison in, and it absolutely refuses to waste precious energy complaining into the void. But it's a daily commitment. So are you ready to wipe your own nose, honor your highly improbable existence, keep your soul perfectly intact, and just drop the heavy weight of those grudges? The path is totally open, and the choice is entirely in your hands. Thanks so much for exploring this framework with me today in this explainer, and I really hope it empowers you to step into your own unshakable agency. Catch you next time.